Today we will show you how to paint Beholder Zombie from Nolzur'S Marvelous Miniatures. Hey guys, this is Nisa from Den of Imagination. I have a tutorial on Pro level for you. It's going to be Beholder Zombie painted by one of our painters, Maciej, and narrated by Agnieszka. Prepare your stuff and enjoy!
We will begin with the airbrush. When you start to paint with the airbrush, first what you have to do is to mix your paint with thinner, especially when you are using ordinary paints instead of those from Air series. Air paints are specifically made for airbrush. They have more medium than pigment, and thanks to that, they are more liquid. So take your thinner, add a little bit of it to the airbrush cup, and then add your paint. In this way, you can control the liquidity of your paint. If you prefer to work with more watery paints, add more thinner, and if you prefer otherwise, add less. But remember that the paint cannot be too dense. Inside of the airbrush is a very narrow canal through which the paint is flowing. For the paint to flow smoothly through the canals, it has to be liquid. Acrylics are paints that dry very quick, and it is very possible for the paint to clog itself inside of the airbrush. Since that can be very problematic during the work, keep in mind to add enough thinner to your paint. So take airbrush thinner and dark flesh tone and mix them together in your pot. This color will serve as a base coat for our model. Before you start painting, prepare your model for airbrush. Take painter's tape and cover the transparent stand of the model for us not to cover it while using airbrush. Then, by controlling the trigger of the airbrush, make the stream of the paint to be white and delicate mist, so it will cover the model evenly. Try to be careful and do not create too strong stream for the paint not to cover the details. Hold your airbrush under the 45-degree angle and about 10 to 15 centimeters in front of the model. Now let's create a first layer of highlights. Take heavy brown and mix it with thinner. Of course, clean your airbrush before you change the paint. First, what you need to do is to drain the paint from the airbrush. After that, fill the cup with clean water and drain it again. Repeat the process couple of times. This time, do not cover the model's surface completely. Hold the model in a way how you want your light to fall on the surface. Try to adjust the position of the model to use the direction of the paint stream to create lights and shadows. Start with the tip of the model and move to more distant parts of the beholder. While you are painting with the airbrush, do not shake it too much. It is a very sensitive tool, and if you will shake it or move it around without second thought, the paint can get backward and the airbrush can get clogged. Remember also to be gentle with the trigger. It is very easy to give it too much power and make the paint stream too intense. Hold the model in the way how you want your light to fall on the surface. Take bone white and mix it with thinner. Because we are using a very light color, be sure that the airbrush is clean enough before you apply the new paint. It is important for this color to not have shades of the previous ones while we are applying it on the model. What we are aiming for is a good contrast between the colors, and to achieve that we need our colors to be clean. Concentrate your stream only on the upper part of the model and the eyes of the beholder. Now we can start with the brush. Take bone white again and round brush size 2. We will add some glaze that will emphasize the color, and by choosing the precise places to highlight, we will emphasize the specific lines of the beholder's body. Put the paint on your palette and mix it with a little bit of water. With glaze, the water-paint ratio is crucial. The paint cannot be too liquid because you will not see the effect. You will have to build layer on top of the layer, and that takes time. But too dense paint will be too visible on the model and we will lose the smooth transition between the colors. But don't worry. Through trial and error, you will eventually arrive at the correct consistency. Then, with half-wet brush, take a little bit of paint on the tip and start to paint the wrinkles at the front of the face of the beholder and on its forehead. Try not to paint inside of the folds, concentrating yourself only on the surface. Because we do not use any washes, we do not want to overpaint our shadows. Paint with the tip of your brush. If the bristle starts to separate, just wet it with water. And also, if the paint does not flow smoothly from the brush, it also means that the paint is too dense. So add a little bit of water to it and it should be just fine. While painting the highlights on the jaw, remember that the light falls from the top, so paint only the line on the top of the segments. The same goes with the eye stalks and the segments on the back of the beholder. Mark the light on the upper half. You may ask why we are using the same color just after using it with the airbrush. The answer is because the airbrush always makes the color slightly less bright. With the airbrush, it creates a very thin layer by spraying the paint through the air as a mist. The nature of acrylics is that when they get dry, the color loses a little bit of its deepness. So the nature of acrylics together with the thin layer achieved by airbrush makes our color slightly less vibrant. That is why we are adding glaze to create the concentration of color that will symbolize the stronger light. Change your paint for old rows, but stay with the same brush, that is round brush size 2, and use the new color to paint the inside of the mouth of the beholder. Those parts that are, in some means, inside of the model are very often quite difficult to paint, because we do not have full and safe access to those parts. Luckily for us, the beholder maw is wide open, so with some effort we will be able to paint it easily. Try to get with your brush to every crack and fold inside of the mouth. This time you do not have to worry yourself with correct water paint mix, because in this situation more dense paint is easier to work with. Denser paint will help us to cover this folded and full of details surface faster. Just remember not to overdo it and don't hide the details under too thick layer of paint. After getting sure that our layer is already dry, we can move to the next step. Take Gory Red from Game Air series. We shall use it as a wash to make the insides of the beholder's mouth more reddish. Gory Red is not a wash per se. It is an air paint, which means that it is more liquid than ordinary paint because of their purpose to be easier to use with airbrush, and thanks to that very handy with other techniques. Here we will use it as a wash. So put your paint on your palette, dip your brush in the paint and generously apply it on the surface of the mouth. Do not worry if you use too much of it. You can always clear your brush, dry it out on the paper towel and remove the excess of wash from the model's surface. Afterwards, give the paint time to get dry. So when you are sure that the mauve surface is dry, take old rose and mark the highlights on it with round brush. Try to paint with the tip of your brush. Using the tip will allow us to get deeper inside of the mouth to reach the details of the sculptures inside. Now take basic skin tone and add some blecks of lights on the maw. The inside flesh has to look wet, so with the second highlight we will be able to create shining wet effect that will give us an illusion of real flesh. Later you may cover these parts with glaze, But for now, let's concentrate on your painting skills to imitate the real skin effect. Let's move to another step. Take middle stone color and add it on your palette. Take it on the tip of your brush and paint with it the triangular petals on the lower part of the beholder's body and the teeth as well. While you are doing it, remember that you can paint with thinner layers and paint 2 or even more layers. You do not have to paint with only one. Our goal is to make the color even of the entire part of the model. So as long as you not overpaint the model, you may paint however it's easier for you. After that, take sepia wash and cover those parts with it. The washing technique is no different than the previous one. So take your wash, put it on your palette, dip your brush in it and cover with it the chosen parts. And again, after giving the model some time to get dry, take buff color and put some highlights on those parts with lining and glaze. Next, take two colors, buff and white, and mix them together in 1:1 ratio to create a lighter shade of the buff color. We will use this mix to add second highlight for the teeth and petals. You do not have to add a lot of it on the model. Some blicks and linings are enough. Next we will do dry brush. Take basic skin tone color and put some of it on your palette and dip the tip of your brush into the paint. Prepare the clean sheet of paper towel to clean your brush. While dry brushing, the best brushes are the white ones, so we prepared the white brush size 6. White brushes cover more surface than the round ones, what gives us more of an even layer while dry brushing. And here is the trick. Dry brush is the technique when we are working with the dry bristles. So don't put your brush into the water, and if you do, wait until your brush will be dry again or take another one. Only the dry tool will give the right effect. So again, dip the tip of your brush into the paint and then wipe it out on the paper towel. When the brush will leave like a mist effect on the towel, you are ready to begin. Start to brush the eyes of the beholder like you would clean them from the dust. Soon, you will start to notice a delicate layer of paint that gives us a perfect highlight. Now, take the dead white and repeat the process. Remember that your brush still have to be dry. The layer of dry brush will be a kind of base for the white glaze in next step. We will stay with dead white color, but we will change the brush for round brush size too. Apply some white color on the eyes of the beholder. Applying glaze after dry brush allows us to create nice transition of the color without layering our glaze. It's quicker and easier. Because the main body is now almost ready, it is time to take care about the base. Take olive brown and white brush size 6. Paint the base with even layer. The surface is very rocky, so take care that you covered it completely. After it gets dry, take umber wash and cover the surface of the base with it. And again, wait for it to get dry. Now take Parasite Brown and white brush size 10. Use the dry brush technique again to create an additional color on the base. Now for some black lining, take black ink and with round brush size 1, draw a very thin line surrounding the eyes of the beholder. You can also use it to deepen the shadows under the teeth. While black lining, the trick is to always have a sharp tip, so take care that your brush is wet. Try also not to take too much ink with your brush because it can flow down. It is also important to hold the brush horizontally.
I hope you guys like this painting tutorial. I really like the finished results. We are really curious about your results too. So tag us, Den of Imagination, in your social medias and share your results with us. And don't forget to smash the like button and let us know in the comment section what you think of it. Thank you guys. See you in the next one. Bye bye.